Welcome back, coin collectors, history buffs, and treasure hunters. Today we are diving deep into the fascinating world of British numismatics to uncover the truth, the history, and the exact market value of a coin that might be sitting in your old collection or a jar of family keepsakes right now. We are talking about the United Kingdom 1 penny from the year 1935, specifically looking at what makes certain examples stand out in today's global auction market, how the presence of specific marks or variations changes everything, and what you can realistically expect a circulated fine condition specimen to fetch in US dollars. When you first look at a 1935 British penny, it carries a sense of undeniable history. This bronze coin was struck during the final full year of the reign of King George V, who ruled the United Kingdom and the British Empire through a period of massive global transformation, including the First World War and the onset of the Great Depression. The pennies minted during this era are large, heavy, and satisfyingly historic pieces of bronze. They are much larger than modern pennies, measuring over 30 millimeters in diameter and weighing nearly 9.5 grams. For decades, these coins were the literal backbone of everyday commerce across Great Britain, used to buy everything from a loaf of bread to a train ticket. Because they circulated so heavily, finding them today in various states of preservation is quite common, but understanding the nuances of their condition, their specific minting history, and how the international market prices them is where the real numismatic skill comes into play. Let us start by breaking down the anatomy and standard design elements of this specific coin so you know exactly what you are looking at when you hold a 1935 penny. On the obverse side, which is the front of the coin, you will see the uncrowned left-facing portrait of King George V. This beautiful effigy was designed by the renowned engraver Edgar Bertram McKennell, whose initials can often be spotted in tiny letters at the base of the king's neck if the coin hasn't suffered too much wear. Surrounding the portrait is a sweeping Latin inscription that reads Georgivs vdi gra Brit omn rex fid def in imp, translated into English. This historic title means George V, by the grace of God, King of all the Britons, Defender of the Faith, Emperor of India. In numismatic circles, this specific design is recognized as the smaller portrait type, which the Royal Mint adopted in the late 1920s to ensure the coin struck more cleanly and worn down less rapidly during heavy public circulation. Turning the coin over to the reverse side reveals one of the most iconic images in the history of British currency, the majestic figure of seated Britannia facing right. Designed originally by Leonard Charles Wyon, Britannia is depicted wearing a classic helmet, holding a trident firmly in her left hand, and resting her right hand upon a shield adorned with the Union Jack flag. Behind her, you can see faint ocean waves rising up, a proud nod to Britain's historical maritime dominance. The words 1 penny are boldly inscribed around the top rim, and the year 1935 is stamped cleanly at the very bottom in the section known as the exurg. Now, let us tackle a point that often creates massive confusion for newer collectors and seasoned hobbyists alike when discussing United Kingdom pennies from this era, the question of mint marks. If you are accustomed to collecting United States coins, you know that looking for a small letter like a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco is a mandatory step to determine if you have found a rare key date treasure. However, the Royal Mint in London operated under a completely different philosophy. The vast majority of all British pennies from the 20th century were struck at the main London facility on Tower Hill. Because London was the primary, default mint, the coins produced there carry absolutely no mint mark whatsoever. Historically, there were only a few select years where the Royal Mint could not handle the immense demand for domestic copper coinage on its own. During those high-demand periods, they contracted external private mints to help produce pennies. The two most famous external facilities were the Heaton Mint in Birmingham and the King's Norton Metal Company. When these private facilities struck pennies, they placed tiny, distinct mint marks on the reverse side of the coin, specifically just to the left of the date near the bottom rim. A small letter H indicated production by the Heaton Mint, while the letters KN indicated the King's Norton facility. These mint-marked pennies from years like 1912, 1918, or 1919 are highly sought after because their production numbers were significantly lower than the London issues. When we look strictly at the official records for the year 1935, the Royal Mint in London produced a total of 56,070,000 pennies. This was a very healthy, robust mintage intended to fulfill the everyday cash needs of the British public. Because London easily handled this entire production run internally, there were no official contracts given to the Heaton Mint or the King's Norton facility for the 1935 penny. Consequently, there is no such thing as an official, standard business strike 1935H or 1935 knots penny in the official mint records. If you ever encounter a standard 1935 British penny, it will look like the classic London issue, featuring a smooth space next to the date with no letter stamp. This brings us to a critical distinction that drives the coin collecting market: the difference between a standard mint mark and a die error or variation. While there are no official branch mint letters on a 1935 penny, numismatists and error hunters constantly scan these coins under high magnification looking for die varieties, die chips, or anomalies that occurred during the manufacturing process at the London Mint. These minute flaws or specialized die pairings, such as the specific combinations catalogued in advanced reference guides like the Freeman classification system, can make individual coins highly interesting to specialists. However, for a standard, regular issue 1935 penny, the lack of an official external mint mark means the coin's value rests primarily on its structural preservation and its overall grade. To understand what your 1935 penny is worth in today's global auction market, we must look closely at the concept of coin grading, specifically focusing on the fine condition grade requested today. Coin grading operates on a strict scale that measures how much original detail remains on a coin after years of being spent, dropped, and passed from hand to hand. In the numismatic world, a coin graded as fine, often abbreviated simply as F, represents a piece that has seen a substantial amount of honor circulation but still retains all of its core design elements intact. When you examine a 1935 penny in fine condition, you will immediately notice that the highest, most prominent points of the design have flattened out due to wear. On the obverse side, the fine details of King George V's hair, the crisp texture of his beard, and the subtle lines of his mustache will be largely smoothed down into solid shapes. However, his main profile, the shape of his ear, and the outline of his jaw will remain completely clear and distinct against the background field. The surrounding Latin lettering will be fully legible, though the edges of the characters might show minor softening or merging with the outer rim. On the reverse side, Britannia's seated figure will show similar uniform wear. The high relief areas of her helmet, the emblem on her shield, and the distinct muscles of her arm will be worn flat, but her complete silhouette, the three distinct prongs of her trident, and the major lines of the Union Jack flag on her shield will still be easily identifiable. Crucially, for a coin to secure a clean fine grade, the entire date 1935 at the bottom must be completely visible, sharp, and easy to read without any guesswork. The surfaces should also be free of severe destructive damage, meaning no deep gouges, heavy corrosion, ugly punch marks, or signs of harsh chemical cleaning that would ruin its visual appeal. To gain a complete view of how the market behaves, it is incredibly helpful to compare this baseline value against the dramatic price jumps that happen when a 1935 penny manages to survive in higher tiers of preservation. If a 1935 penny escapes heavy circulation and retains a grade of very fine or extremely fine, where the individual strands of the king's beard and the crisp lines of Britannia's shield are remarkably sharp, the value ticks upward slightly, often commanding between $2 and $5. The real explosion in value occurs when you move completely out of circulated conditions and look at pristine, uncirculated specimens. When a bronze coin is fresh from the mint presses, it exhibits a beautiful, glowing orange-red finish known as original mint luster. Over time, exposure to air, moisture, and finger oils causes this reactive bronze to oxidize, slowly turning the coin a rich chocolate brown. Uncirculated 1935 pennies that have somehow been preserved in protective paper rolls or dry coin cabinets for nearly a century, keeping 50% or more of their brilliant original red color, are highly sought after by registry set collectors. On the current auction block, an uncirculated 1935 penny with beautiful remaining mint red luster can easily command $20 to $40. If an example is exceptional enough to be sent to a professional third-party grading service like NGC or PCGS and secures a high-tier grade such as Mint State 64 or Mint State 65 red-brown, the final hammer price at a specialized numismatic auction can easily soar past $100 to $150 from passionate collectors bidding for top-quality preservation. Beyond the standard business strikes intended for public pockets, there is another ultra-rare category from 1935 that represents the absolute pinnacle of value for this specific date: the matte-proof and mirror-proof issues. Proof coins are not meant for general spending. They are specially manufactured pieces struck using highly polished dies and hand-selected planchets to create a flawless coin of the highest quality visual statement for museums, archives, or wealthy presentation sets. Proof pennies from 1935 were produced in incredibly small, restricted quantities. Because of their extreme scarcity and their flawless preservation, a certified 1935 proof penny is a true elite rarity. When one of these rare specimens crosses a high-end auction block today, it ignores the low pricing of common pocket change, with intense bidding wars regularly driving the final valuation up into the $300 to $500 range. For an everyday collector or someone looking through an accumulation of old British coins, The big lesson here is the overwhelming importance of accurate identification and grading. It is incredibly common for people to see an old date like 1935 and assume that age automatically equals immense wealth, or to confuse the history of British pennies with the completely different minting systems of other countries. A standard 1935 UK penny in fine condition is a beautiful, evocative piece of historical bronze that tells a story of an empire on the brink of a new era, but financially, it remains a highly affordable token valued at under $1. It serves as a perfect reminder of why numismatics is so rewarding. It allows us to hold real history in the palm of our hands without needing a fortune to buy it. Keep examining your coins closely. Look out for exceptional preservation or genuine structural anomalies under your magnifying glass, and enjoy the historical journey of building your collection.